Washington Times opinion editor Monica Crowley joins us tonight, host of the Mike Gallagher Show on the Salem Radio Network. Mike Gallagher joined us, both Fox News contributors. Good to have you with us.
Hello.
This is startling to watch what is happening, well, in London as well as in this country. It is reminiscent of a period in the 60s in which, at the very beginning, we saw unrest in the cities. This is led by the Black Lives Matter movement, which has been, I guess, validated by the President of the United States.
Yes, and the difference between what we saw in the 1960s and what we're seeing today is the 1960s movements were actually organic. What you're seeing now, this is this kind of astroturf kind of stuff by groups like Occupy Wall Street, Black Lives Matter, supported and funded by groups like Media Matters, ultimately getting their money from George Soros. This is a very well orchestrated leftist attack. And the president winks at it and has spent the last 7.5 years encouraging this kind of behavior. Yeah. Time and again, he has sided against the police, starting very early in his term when he said the Cambridge police acted stupidly when there was a confrontation with a black professor.
Louis Gates, the beer kind of summit, I guess it was.
If you don't see even an interruption in these protests after 5 Dallas law enforcement officers are slaughtered, nothing will stop them. I mean, honest to goodness, I really thought that one of the horrific turn of events would be, well, after Thursday night in Dallas. Well, at the very least, these guys are going to have to rethink what they're doing in throwing things at police officers, throwing projectiles at them, dropping concrete blocks on one of them in St. Paul, shattering his vertebrae. Now, that's not something that makes the front page of the New York Times. It's unthinkable that this is continuing to happen.
The New York Times had the audacity to draw in its headline this cycle nonsense of villain and as well as victim, talking about law enforcement in this country.
Right.
Pure ignorance by a metropolitan major newspaper that once had some reputation journalistically. It has shattered that.
Because we are in a world now where the left is driven totally by ideology. It's not about pragmatism. It's not about adopting policies that actually work. It is totally driven by ideology. They don't give a flying whit about the ramifications here. This is about remaking the country. And the person that sits at the top of this agenda is Barack Obama, who's been driving it for the last 8 years.
And where is he driving us to, Mike?
Well,
because there's an objective here.
Well, but there can be an objective to interrupting the status quo. There is a political solution to this. November is but months away. And, you know, I've pointed out for a year that Trump constantly acknowledges law enforcement every speech he gives, way before all this stuff happened. This is a guy who is right to describe himself as the law and order candidate. Right. So if Americans are fed up with the trajectory of the country, well, there's a distinction that they can make in November and a choice they can make.
And a new poll talking about this with Ed Rollins and Michael Goodwin. I just want to get your reaction to it. 56% of Americans say, I mean, effectively, they're saying that James Comey didn't have the guts to proceed.
That's because the American people know crime and corruption when they see it, right there. Now, the other part of that
poll We're getting such heavy doses of it, I don't think any of us can miss it anymore.
Well, that's right. The other part of the poll was about the same number. 58% say it will have no effect on their vote either way, which means that the lack of integrity, lack of honesty on Hillary Clinton's part has already been baked into the public perception.
And there's polling data that's contradicting the anti-Trump crowd every day. The poll that came out that says that Trump is right now faring better with Hispanics than Romney or McCain. This is stuff that people don't hear.
And Paul Ryan is continuing to issue all of these mumbo-jumbo, mush-mouth nonsense. To what end?
I have no patience for the Republican leadership that refuses to embrace Donald Trump. They don't have to love him. They don't even have to like him. But he is the candidate. And if you have nothing nice to say, zip it.
There's no plan B. It's right. It's either Mr. Trump or Mrs. Clinton. One or the other.
Seems like hardly a choice at all. Mike, good to have you with us.
Lou.
Thank you very much, Monica.
Thanks.